Good evening and welcome to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Blizzard conditions in some places, temperatures down to -9 in northern England, -10 in southern Scotland, and we do have a named storm on the way as well. So lots going on. Keep it right here on the channel if you're interested in a lot of action. Weather-wise, winter forecast coming up at the weekend. We've got a change taking place in the overall pattern as well. And I'm doing my very best to keep you updated as best I possibly can. So now is the time to hit that like button, and also if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel as well. So I made mention of the fact that we had near blizzard conditions in some places during the overnight last night into the early portions of today, with a feature running the northerly flow enhancing the winteriness, but also the wind as well. Winds kind of veered a little bit more northwesterly during the overnight period last night. We've seen heavy snowfall in places that we didn't see much in the way of snowfall up until now. And we also seen some drifting also. This was a tweet here by Braemar, Ballater and D-Side Weather, showing quite a substantial drift here beside his weather station in Aberdeenshire. So yeah, and I can vouch for that as well. Driving north up the A9 during the overnight period, I did see some pretty nasty conditions, even particularly so across the drive between Inverness and home here in Edmonton. This is a photograph here by Highland Weather showing the river through Carbridge now beginning to ice up, indicative of the prolonged cold spell that we've seen during the course of this week. This was a video I captured from my home village here in Edmonton this morning. So heavy snowfall, pretty gusty winds as well, miserable driving conditions, especially if you were hitting the roads for work early this morning. But 3:30 in the morning, you've got that beautiful stillness and quiet and no tracks in the snow. It really is a pretty magical time of the day when you've got the wintry precipitation. But certainly we do have got a lot of things going on at the moment. Like I say, a named system. Bert, we've got now on the cards for the upcoming weekend. We've got a whole potpourri of weather warnings now issued by the Met Office. And we'll look at that in a little bit of detail in just a second here. But I want to draw your attention to, let's actually quickly look at the latest of Net Weather TV showing the wintry showers. So we did actually see snow change into rain as slightly warmer air in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, mainly the mid levels actually getting drafted southward. So we've seen snow initially here at Edmonton and other places change then to rain. We still have about 3 centimetres of snow, but I measured 5 centimetres when I got home early this morning. That's down to around 3 now, and it's a little bit patchy. But the rain did come, and it has led to a bit of a slushy, sloppy mess out there, to say the least. But we do have over parts still some snow to speak about. You can see here off the latest radar showing, we've got some showers in the form of rain, especially along the coast. But even some inland areas now, especially at lower levels, seeing rain as opposed to snow. But then we move down across Scotland. We've got plenty of heavy showers, possibly embedded lightning also to speak about across parts of the islands and the west coast. We've got a mix of rain, sleet and snow here. We've got a mix of rain, sleet and snow over parts of Donegal, northern portions of Northern Ireland. Then in the northwest of England, we've got a mixture here as well. And then it's largely dry across the bulk of England and Wales, as you can see. Looking at snow depth, this is off Highland Weather, and you can see this is only for Scotland, unfortunately, but some fairly substantial amounts. Even at the coast, we've got, I believe this is in centimetres, but this is 1 centimetre right along the coast, just on the north side of Wick, as you can see. We've got 10 centimetres here at Altnaharam. We've got 21 centimetres of lying snow at Loch Liscarnock. We've got 8 at Aviemore. We've got first at 11. Aboyne Gliding Club, 3 centimetres. We've got 4 at Aberdeen Dice Airport. And then even down here across the central belt, where there's been no snow through the course of the week, just heavy frost. Bishopton's got 1 centimetre, and we've also got 1 centimetre at Edinburgh Gogar Bank. Up in the southern uplands, we've got as much as 3 centimetres at Estelmuir. And we do obviously have snow across parts of Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, England and Wales as well, not forgetting our friends here. But in terms of yellow warnings, there is lots for today. Obviously, plenty of showers rattling in from a northwesterly direction here. Anywhere exposed to that is susceptible to seeing the wintry precipitation. Ice risk continues, as you would expect, with the cold temperatures. Speaking of the temperatures, these were the temperatures this morning. So we had as low as -7 in a few spots across parts of Highland Perthshire, -4s in the Central Belt, and then down into the southern uplands as low as -8.3 at Estelmuir. We did have a -9 in in North Yorkshire, but also I believe there was maybe a spot or two recording down to -10, so double digits below freezing in southern Scotland during the overnight period. But then even across more central areas of England and Wales, we've seen temperatures into the -5 and -6 range. A little bit less cold, still below freezing, however, across southern UK. So let me see here. Let's skip on. We do have a big change coming up over the weekend. We did have a bomb cyclone, or a system that rapidly deepened on approach to the west coast of North America in recent days, bringing havoc, record low pressure as well. But as is often the case with weather, there is a bit of a mirror image that goes on when you've got the right pattern. Deep area of low pressure moving into the west coast of Canada and the northwest United States. We're going to see a deep area of low pressure reflected in the North Atlantic over the next few days. We've got the StormBert that's now been named by the UK Met Office, showing all sorts of warnings. We've even got an amber warning now for snow issued. We'll look at that in a second. But this is, again, a summary of the warnings Thursday and through Friday. Northern Scotland, yellow warning for snow and ice. Northern Ireland, we've got a yellow warning. We've also got the southwest and central southern England, a warning mainly for ice. Then we've got the rest of Scotland, coastal northeast England, mid and north Wales, the Midlands and northwest England, all got snow and ice warning until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So let me see here what else I can show real quick. I want to go also to the snow. I'm kind of jumping back and forward a little bit. I do apologise for that. I do have a slight habit of doing that. This is a little capture from earlier today in Carbridge from Lee, showing the heavy snow coming down in the village. So a beautiful scene, heavy, big flakes at that. And I think this is probably the biggest accumulation here. Mainly the bulk of the heavy snow has been to the north of the Cairngorms and really north of Inverness, actually. We've seen the most significant snow. As well as that, across parts of inland Moray and Aberdeenshire, seeing some significant accumulations of snow in the last few days. So, yep, wonderful scenes if you like winter, that is. We are going to make the most of it because it is going to change quite dramatically over the next wee while or so. Before I get into the details with regards to the system that is approaching this weekend, we do have a strengthening of the polar vortex. Now, that is measured in two ways. The depth of cold within the core of the polar vortex is one thing, but also the winds blowing around the polar vortex, the mean zonal wind. Usually when it's stronger, it means that the polar vortex is stronger. When the winds around that are weaker, it tends to be a weaker vortex. Also, it tends to allow the release of cold southwards out of the Arctic towards the mid-latitude pattern as well. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is two things. Now, I touched on this in yesterday's video, but it's re-emphasising the fact that I think we're generally, now there might be a couple of bumps in the road here and there with low pressure and colder moving in behind those lows, but generally speaking, we're moving into a milder pattern, and that looks as if that may materialise and continue into, dare I say, the first 10 days or so of December. Now, there is some reason to be optimistic that we may see something colder towards middle late month. We shall wait and see, long way off, but these are the broader scale ideas that I've got going. One of the reasons why I think this pattern is going to reinforce in terms of a milder situation is the polar vortex is strengthening. When you've got a stronger polar vortex, you tend to have more in the way of milder conditions across mid-latitudes, North America, Europe, and also across parts of Asia. The winds at the moment within the polar vortex are actually going slightly below average, but they're going to actually go, according to the ECM model, slightly above the record strong level. So it looks as if we're going, according to this model anyway, this is the Ensemble as well, looks as if the polar vortex may strengthen to record levels in terms of the mean zonal wind anyway, as we move into the early portions of December. That counteracted with the MJO. Sorry, I couldn't think there for a second. That counteracted with an MJO rotating through phases 2 and 3, but more importantly into 4 and 5, in combination with that strengthening polar vortex. That really does suggest to me that we've got a generally milder theme towards the end of November and through potentially the first half of December. Then there are suggestions that as we move towards day 15 through 20, the MJO may start to rotate back towards phases 6, then 7, then 8, and that is exactly where we're in at the moment. The response to phases 7, 8, and 1 is what we're seeing at this very moment in time. So, on to the StormBert. Named by the Met Office, like I say, we are expecting this system to deepen to 940s, possibly even upper 930s in millibars. The one slight positive about this, if there is one, is yes, we're going to get heavy rainfall, heavy snowfall, blizzard conditions, damage and wind potential as well, large seas. We're going to see a disruption to all forms of transport over the next few days, particularly so Saturday, where winds widely 50-60 miles per hour, gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour possible on exposed coasts in Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. But the centre of the low is going to deepen about 200 miles to the west of Ireland. Now, that does not mean that we're not going to get a massive amount of impact or significant amount of impact. But what is good is the centre of the low and potentially the core of strongest winds is going to remain offshore. So you can see that here in the warning area of the Met Office. Let's have a look back, in fact, and see what they're showing with regards to that amber warning. So these are the warnings for Thursday, Friday. Let me just skip back here. So it looks as if it's indicating the amber warning, heavy snow associated with StormBert across central parts of Scotland, in effect between 7 a.m. and 1700 on Saturday. So 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, we have a heavy snowfall warning with as much as 10 to 20 centimetres of snow above 200 metres, 10 to 40 centimetres above 400 metres, drifting snow and blizzards, power interruptions possible, and freezing rain possible also. The reason why is we've got a block of cold air in place, but when we've got rapidly warm air moving in from the southwest associated with StormBert, this is going to really kick the Arctic air out of the ballpark very quickly indeed as the system moves in from the west. Now, as you then see a layer of milder air a few hundred meters above the ground, or say 500 to 1,000 meters above the ground, but you've actually got a cold layer underneath that, what happens is wintry precipitation then comes out of the sky as snow initially, then it changes over to rain, but as it moves through the layer of cold air within the lowest 300-400 meters of the ground, it may still remain close to freezing, if not below. You've also got ground temperatures that are actually at below freezing. The moisture then has not got enough time to go from snow to rain back to snow. It stays as rain because of the heavy precip coming through the column. And you've got that layer, moisture then running through the sub-freezing air, and then it freezes on impact to the ground. So that is essentially what freezing rain is. So freezing rain is possible in places during the course of Saturday as warm air runs over the top of mild air. The moisture does not have time to refreeze. It hits the sub-freezing ground and it freezes on impact. So this is the concern that we have. There is the amber warning, like I say, and that is expected to be anywhere from around the Dalwhinnie area, possibly close to the Aviemore Carbridge area, across through Glen Shee, into parts of inland Tayside, southern Aberdeenshire. It's incorporating Pitlochry, Killin, and down into the upper regions of Stirlingshire, Perthshire, South Highland. So this is the area that is under an amber warning. It would not surprise me if we see this expand further over the next 12 to 24 hours as new forecast models come in. So we'll wait and see what happens with that anyway. Let's skip out. Let's have a look at the model here of the GFS initially. This is the mess that we've got going at the moment here. High pressure over the North Atlantic. Several areas of low pressure extending from northern France. We've got heavy snowfall here. We've got another feature just to the east of Scotland that's been enhancing the rain, sleet and snow showers during the back half of yesterday through the first half of today. Rain changing over to snow as the milder air moves in. We've also got an area of low pressure up towards Scandinavia as well. So lots of things going on at the moment here. But I'm endeavouring to keep you up to date as best I can. If you look at the 850s here, you can see the cold air digging in all the way from the Arctic into the UK. But we've got a couple of pockets here of slightly less cold air, and that has been the reason behind the changeover to rain. But if we play through the loop here, keep our eyes closely fixed on the North Atlantic here. This is that system moving in. Now, we may get a little break in between systems ahead of the deep low moving in and the system that is exiting into the near continent. That may allow, with snow on the ground, cold air in place, we may see potentially the coldest air of the entire week as we move out of Friday and into early Saturday. I may be wrong, it depends on cloud and wind, etc. But we've got this little bump in the isobars indicating a brief ridge of high pressure building in. So we'll wait and see what happens. Then the system moves in. It moves from the warm to the cold side of the jet. It then tightly winds up as high pressure over the near continent creates resistance. All that energy getting pushed, all that air piling in towards the UK and Europe. With it, got nowhere to go, it then is forced to wind up. You've got high pressure to the north, high pressure to the east and southeast, and then that air and that energy is forced to bundle and then force the air to rise. As it rises, the pressure in the centre drops. You can see here, according to the GFS, pressure drops to 936 millibars. The good news, like I said, while we've got messy conditions, all sorts of warnings and hazards across the pretty much all of the UK as well as Ireland, the centre of the low and the core of strongest winds is actually offshore. But what happens is that system eventually does kind of do a little swirl over the North Atlantic and then pivots back in and should progress eventually across the UK and Ireland. Now, interestingly enough, according to the GFS model anyway, this then opens the door to a series of areas of low pressure moving in from off the Atlantic. High pressure over the continent, so we've got that southerly flow and generally progressing through the weekend and early next week to mid next week, we've got generally mild conditions. Now, the ECM model is somewhat different. And this is the problem, and this is the reason why we have to look at all the different model runs, not just one. This is back to the here now. This is the ECM. This is the same chart as I showed before. Overview, precip, cloud, temperature, pressure. 3 areas of low pressure extending from northern France, off east coast of Scotland and Scandinavia. High pressure over the North Atlantic, cold northerly airflow. Play through the loop, area of low pressure, moves from the warm to the cold side of the jet, is forced to tighten up. Pressure drops to 936 millibars. But notice here, it does do that kind of stumble across the northern UK, wind, rain, milder conditions getting mixed in as well. Could see 15, 16 Celsius, believe it or not, with that strong southwesterly flow. But watch what happens. That area of high pressure over the North Atlantic then builds eastwards across the top of the UK, then forces the low to then get forced south. As that high builds to the north of the UK, we've got that flow around the high then pulling colder air in underneath the high. So watch this. Look at how different this is compared to the GFS. So this is the same time frame, 1032 high over northern UK, Monday the 2nd of December. Looking at the GFS, very different story altogether. So this is the thing. This is the complicating factor when you see a pattern start to transition. But if you look at the 850s, you can actually see the colder air running underneath that high, moving in. Skip back a couple of frames. There's the high building to the north, lobe of cold air coming underneath, moving westwards towards the southern UK. So quite a different scenario overall. Looking at the same model here, but the GFS, you've got the opposite. You've got actually milder air coming into that same area that the ECM has colder air moving in. I want to show you very, very quickly, by the way, the change in temperature anomaly over the course of this, November. Obviously, warmest, driest opening 11 days of November. What a change we've seen in recent times. So this is off the CDAS 0.5 data, weatherbell.com. This is the temperature anomalies over Europe, including obviously the UK and Ireland. Play through the first few days of November. We did have colder or chillier northern France, low countries into Central Europe. We had snow here. Look at Iceland, exceptional warmth. Remember that 23.8 Celsius. UK as well, especially northern UK, Ireland. We've seen temperatures close to 20 Celsius across parts of both Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland in particular. And then, obviously, we did see the change taking place eventually. It was still lingered with that warmth all the way out to Friday the 15th of November. And then down came the Arctic air mass. Initially over Iceland, we've seen that huge drop. Then the UK. And what a change this is over the past 5 or so days, especially. Looking at the upcoming 5 days, this is off the, or 7 days off the ECMWF. Actually has the cold lingering over the UK and Ireland, which is quite interesting. And then we'll play through. This kind of backs up a little bit of what I said initially about the strong polar vortex, but also the MJO rotating through phases 3, 4, and 5. We're seeing the changeover to something milder. So this is the period 11 through 18 days. So this is the first through the 8th of December, largely milder compared to average. So, yeah, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm sure you're going to take a deep breath as well. Like and subscribe, and I'll be back again tomorrow with more. Stay safe, and I'll enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Bye for now.